Today I'm going to talk about courage because I realized recently that everything that's good in my life, each and every blessing that I have now, is a product of something difficult that I had the courage to face in my past. And what do I mean by something difficult? I mean anything that made me feel kind of vulnerable. Taking a risk, doing something out of my norm, letting go of something that wasn't serving me anymore, walking away from something or some place that wasn't serving me anymore, speaking my truth, having an honest conversation, listening to that whisper inside of my heart despite all of the external noise that was outside of me telling me where to go and what to do, walking my own path. All of those things are very difficult to do. However, when we can generate the courage to do things like that, we can truly generate good things in our lives. So, how do we generate courage? I mentioned in my last video that I thought that courage was two things, or sort of a twofold definition, and I'm sure I could go on for hours talking about courage, so I don't want to whittle it down and generalize it into just this, but I will start by saying that I believe it begins with an ability to connect with the self, to feel your feet on the ground, to sit in silence and listen to yourself. And also, it's to go forth and pursue what you want despite your fear that you won't get it or you'll fail or whatever. It's to go forth with a sense of non-attachment to your performance or the outcome of your experience or your judgment of the experience. It's to move forth despite your fear with a sense of openness and curiosity. That's not easy to do. So how do we begin to generate that ability so when it truly matters in our life, when we come up against something that we really want or something that we really want to break away from, how do we have the courage to do that? I think it starts with a daily practice. By doing something mildly out of the norm, by taking a maybe small yet an accessible risk once a day. And that can look like setting your alarm for 5 minutes earlier, getting out of bed 5 minutes before you would usually do and just sit in silence and breathe for 2 minutes. Set your alarm on your phone and just sit and breathe with yourself. Because being with yourself is the scariest thing. We spend all day, most of our lives, distracting ourselves from ourselves. It's normal. We all do it. It's a very normal and natural human tendency. And I'm here making these videos to tell you to come back to yourself. And that takes courage. So carrying on with my theme of this video, that is courage. Another small risk that you can take daily is to go on a walk before dinner or after dinner, whenever you have time. It doesn't have to be much. Just go around the block. It could take 5 to 7 minutes. Just get outside. If you can't go on a walk, go outside, feel your feet on the ground, and look up at the sky. That's definitely kind of out of the norm. I mean, often we kind of have our heads down doing this, or doing this, or doing this. Stop that. Break out of the habit for a minute. Go outside, put your feet on the ground, and look up at the sky. Just take a minute. A moment, 1 moment each day. Another thing that I mentioned earlier in this video is we can begin to generate courage by generating and developing the practice of listening to ourselves. Like I said, that is the scariest thing we can do, because from the time we were born, we have spent our whole lives listening to others. We were trained to do that in school. Most of us was put in a normal, either private or public school situation from the time we were 5 years old, And from that time, we were told where to sit, we were told how to listen, we were told where to put our hands, we were told how to speak up, we had to raise our hand before we even spoke our voice. We were told how to speak. So to break out of that habit and to say, wait a second, I don't want to be told what to do anymore. I'm going to go inside and listen to my own heart, and I'm going to actually do what I want to do. That takes a huge paradigm shift and probably years of breaking down that paradigm. So let's start small and be gentle with ourselves by just taking a minute a day to practice sitting with ourselves in silence and begin to simply listen to your breath. You don't have to change it or do anything about it. You can just watch it. And even that is a little bit difficult at first, so be gentle with yourself. Begin by noticing how it feels to just take one inhale and one exhale. You can notice the sound of it. You can notice the fact that when you inhale in through your nostrils, the air might feel a little bit cool as it comes into your nostrils. As you exhale, you can notice the air feels a little bit warm. Just notice one aspect of your breath, and that is the gateway into beginning the practice of learning how to listen to yourself. Another way to generate courage is to remind yourself that it is possible to feel vulnerable and also grateful at once. We can hold many feelings at once. It is possible to feel scared and also feel desire for something at the same time. So often I feel like we have these emotions of fear inside of ourselves, and that emotion, that one emotion that we have, it takes over and it dictates our experience. You don't have to let fear dictate your experience because you have so much more inside of you. So one thing, I got this trick from Brene Brown. Love her. Totally recommend anything that she's written. Most recently I read Daring Greatly and it was great, and this is the trick that I got from that book. Anytime you're feeling vulnerable, that sort of like quick beat of your heart or butterflies in your stomach, or maybe your throat feels like you're closing and maybe your palms are sweating and you don't want to be in the situation that you're in, you can notice it and you can say to yourself, vulnerability. You can just label it. When you label it, you can tame it. When you name it, you can tame it. You can say, vulnerability. I'm feeling vulnerable, and I also feel blank. Draw another feeling out of yourself that is also your experience. Okay? So it is possible to go forth with your fear and also with gratitude for being here. I think it's very helpful to move through life coming from a place of gratitude rather than fear. And you can just start by reminding yourself that that's possible. Alright, so my last tip I think I want to share with you is something I've learned from my asana yoga practice, and something I've learned from practicing the physical postures of yoga is that when you take a physical posture, that posture you take can dictate the way, well, not dictate, but it can influence the way that you feel. For instance, if you can plant your feet firmly on the ground and really feel the soles of your feet connecting with the earth, and take your arms out wide and really reach them into your sky so you can kind of feel like a conduit between the earth and the sky. When your heart is open like that, when your fingers are reaching up, it lends a sense of confidence inside of your body. And I also notice that when I am hunched over, when I am kind of protecting this heart space because it's vulnerable and I don't want to share it with others, I tend to feel a little bit more insecure. So notice how you're carrying your body. And if you haven't tried it, I do recommend going to a gentle yoga class, maybe a restorative class or a yin class, or something very gentle, and begin to notice as you move from posture to posture how it feels in your body. So there it is. To generate courage, we start small, start easy. Every day, do one thing that is kind of a mild risk for you, to notice that you can survive it and you can become stronger from it. The other thing that we can do is listen to ourselves. Find a small amount of time each day in which you can become quiet with yourself. Another thing that we can do, as I mentioned, is to notice that we can be scared and we can be excited, desiring something, grateful for something. We have all of it inside of us, and we can decide from where we want to move from. We can hold fear. We have the strength to hold fear and move forth anyway. And the only way to realize that is to fucking do it. Pardon my language. And the last thing that I just mentioned is practice taking different postures with your body. That helps you grow a little bit more expansive. So there it is. Thank you so much for listening this far. I'm so grateful for you, and I'm so grateful for this platform in which we can start talking about these things to help empower ourselves and feel better and connect with others. With lots of love. Thank you.